What is up, everybody? It is Dynamic here, and welcome back to another MLW video. Now today, guys, I have a really good one for y'all, an absolute monster of a video. We're going to be grading every single pick and every single trade that was made in this year's MLW draft. Now, before I start, I just want to say, if you haven't watched the MLW draft yet, click off this video and watch it. I'll put the link in the description. You need to watch that video before you watch this one if you want to understand anything that's going on, and it's a great video, so please do that. Second of all, literally every MLW team did something in this year's draft, so it is going to be a monster of a video. We're going to go over everything and grade every single pick. The MLW draft this year was insane, so just make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe, do whatever you need to do to grow this channel, and if you're hyped for the MLW season, make sure to leave a comment. So starting off this draft, the Wildcats take Sean Hornberger, who's the player that I and many others thought the Wildcats would go. He's the consensus #1 pick, and it's really just been high school that's been keeping him out of MLW drafts for these past few seasons. He's absolutely dominant on the mound as well as at the plate. I have no doubt in my mind that this kid's going to be a star in this league. So, of course, I think it's an amazing pick for the Wildcats. They could use a pitcher and a hitter, so going best player available makes perfect sense here. I like that they didn't try and get too fancy with this pick. I had an idea in my mind that maybe they would trade it, and now thinking about it, that would have been really dumb. I think it makes sense to just go with the best player available, get younger, and do what you need to do. I'm really glad Kyle didn't overthink this one. I think it's going to pay off really well for them in the future. I'm also a big fan of this kid's game, so I hope he proves me right and becomes an amazing MLW player. As far as grades go, I'm going to give this an A because it was pretty much perfect. So number 2 overall, the Gators go ahead and select Dustin Staggs. Now, I had never heard of him before this draft, and it makes sense because he comes all the way from California. However, I think this is going to be a huge hit for the Gators. I know, first of all, I'm all positivity at the beginning of this video, but seriously, there's something about this kid that just screams star potential to me. I don't know if it's the mustache or the batting stance or what it is, but I just think bringing this type of energy to a team like this where they already have Bean, they already have some guys that have high energy, and then you also got guys like Cheatham, you got guys like Jeremy Adams, kind of bring down the energy, but still high level intensity guys. I think this Gators team is truly set up for success. I think that they made an amazing pick here. Don't know too much about him, so for that case, I have to give this pick like a B+, but I am confident that this guy will be pretty good. I also like that Cheatham didn't overthink on just getting a hitter. Like, they didn't need a pitcher, they didn't need anyone special, just go and get a hitter. Next, at 3, the Magic go with John Paul Gunn. He's another player who I didn't really anticipate getting drafted this year, but looking into his clips, I actually think he'll be pretty solid. I mean, the name itself is just insane, like John Paul Gunn. Like, that's such a sick name. Anyways, though, the kid seems like a high-energy player who can pitch and also hit, but hopefully he does more pitching for the Magic because we all know they have Walgate. He's a long guy too, so is John Paul Gunn. So maybe they'll work well together off the mound because teams will just be forced to go against length time and time again. But they also have Bonham if they want to play him there first. John Paul Gunn just looks like an absolute slinger at the mound, so we'll see how well he does. He's also a very high-energy guy. Hopefully he can hit for this team. I don't think it was the best idea to go with a pitcher necessarily because I think a hitter is just more valuable to them in the long run. But apparently if he can do both, then that works out. However, I'm not sure how well he'll mesh with the team, so just prediction-wise, I'm going to give this pick a B-. So after this, at 4, the Mallards decide to trade their pick. So I'm going to be looking at the trade, discussing what it means for the league now, and afterwards, I'm going to be grading every team on how they did in the trade. Now, since this is a 4-team trade, that means that a lot of pieces are moving around. It's not as simple as just a normal 2-team trade, so I'm just going to be taking it one step at a time, starting with the Mallards. They get pitcher Trey Flood from the Diamondbacks and a 2026 Magic pick, and they gave up Matt Carlington as well as the 4th overall pick and their 2026 pick. Now, personally, that's a lot of draft capital, not only giving up this year's pick, but next year's pick and Matt Carlington. Now, I understand that the 2026 pick is kind of a swap between the Magic, so we can just kind of cancel that out almost when looking at the trade, but I kind of believe that the Magic might be better than the Mallards next year. I don't know, it's hard to say about that. Overall, though, they do get Trey Flood, and they only really had to give up this year's pick and Matt Carlington if you're counting the swap, so I think it was a good trade for them considering that they needed that second pitcher. I'm going to give them a B for this trade. And now for the Diamondbacks, they got Nick Saylor and Matt Carlington, and they had to give up Trey Flood, and that was all. However, I think Trey Flood is the best player out of these three. I think Nick Saylor has a chance to bounce back this season, so I like the upside of that, and I've also always liked Matt Carlington's bat, so we'll see how this goes for them. Overall, though, I'm not a big fan of giving up a young guy to get two guys that are kind of question marks, but it could definitely pay out for them, so I'm going to give them a C+, just because it could go either way. Next, we have the Wildcats, who gave away Nick Saylor and in return got the 2026 Mallards pick. I think this trade for them was pretty low risk, but I also think that there's a world where Nick Saylor has a huge bounce back season and he's exactly what they're missing next year. But if I was a Wildcats fan, I'd be excited about the core of guys you're bringing in. You got Fresnick, you got Pat Ballman, you got Hornberger now. Of course, you got Kyle Schultz and Pearson. This team is pretty stacked. I mean, they finished dead last this season, and the fact that their roster was able to improve this much is a definite good sign. So in turn, I'm going to give them a C+ as well for this trade. Lastly, we have the Magic, who also have a pretty low risk trade. They get this year's pick and only have to give up their pick next year. Why is this trade so low risk? Because they ended up going with Brady Pearson, who is the brother of Jackson Pearson and is also only 15 years old. So he's young enough to where you could have got him in next year's draft. You're kind of just getting him a year early. And I don't know how high that pick is going to be for Magic next year. I'm not sure at all. But I really do think that this trade is less of a deal than people are probably going to make it out to seem. But it is what it is. I think I'm going to give this trade for them a B+ because it's pretty low risk and they get a guy that I think could have some pretty good success this year. And I'm also going to give Brady Pearson as a prospect a B+ too, because I think his game, especially for how young he is really stellar, and I think he's going to translate really well into the MLW. Next at 5, the Cobras select Cole Kwiatkowski. I hope I said that right. This was definitely an interesting pick. It's a pick that probably wasn't on any MLW fans' radar, but Drew Davis is always going to be a little interesting when it comes to picks. He definitely likes to run his team a certain way, and I think that can be a good thing and also a bad thing. I don't know much about this prospect, but I trust Drew's judgment considering it worked out pretty well with Justin Esch last year. However, because I don't know much about him, I can't grade this pick super high. He seems like he's a good baseball player, and he played wiffle ball and has the experience, but we'll see how he does in the MLW. As for right now, I have to give this pick a C. So at 6, Jimmy Norp goes with Jake Sullivan. This is a pick that I anticipated would happen way earlier in the draft. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen my mock draft, and I put him at like 3 or 2 in both the mock drafts, so I think this is a huge pick for the Diamondbacks. Considering they just traded Trey Flood, I think they have replaced him with the perfect player. He's lefty, young, and has an interesting arm slot that I think will translate well into the MLW. I think his game will work perfectly too on the Diamondbacks, as he seems very devoted, and I think the Diamondbacks have put themselves in a position to go all the way next year. This pick is amazing, and that's why I have to give it an A, just because I really like his game. Next, at number 7, the Predators go out and get Evan Porter. It's a pick that kind of has me scratching my head because the kid looks really young. Now, I know this necessarily isn't a bad thing. There's been young players that succeed in MLW, but if you know anything about me, you know I like to go with a guy that's younger, but not super young. He's pretty short. He has a shorter arm slot. He looks like he can throw a good ball, though. He looks like he's a good pitcher. I'm just asking questions about how well this kid is going to translate to MLW. I don't know. I hope he proves me wrong, but there's just too many question marks about this kid for me. Maybe I haven't watched enough film. Kyle speaks very highly of him, so hopefully I'm wrong about this, but I just don't see him finding success, at least in his first couple years of MLW. But once again, I hope he goes and proves me wrong. He seems like a cool dude. So I'm going to give this pick a C-, just because it seems risky to me. Also, since we're talking about the Predators, I just want to get something off my chest that I feel like I haven't really gotten a chance to say, but I feel like Ryan Kratch and Alec Warda aren't the best managers from like a GM point of view. I just feel like they need to make a move that's going to progress them. Kratch is obviously amazing, So is Brendan Russell and Alec Warda. For the most part, they're usually really good, but they just haven't been able to take that next step yet, and at some point they need to step in, right? I don't know, maybe I'm just rambling, but on to the next pick. So for the last pick in the draft, the Eagles go with Evan Trackman, a player who I don't know too much about, but from his clips on Instagram, seems like he has a handle of what he's doing. He can pitch, he can hit, he seems to be a pretty reliable player as well. The thing that just kind of sucks for him is he's getting drafted to a stacked team, but I do think he can earn some burn on that team. Obviously, the retirement of Zach Whalen, we don't know how available Blade Walker is going to be, so hopefully he'll be pretty valuable. I like this pick, so I'm feeling a B on it, maybe a B minus. I don't know. I'll have to see how I feel. I think I'm going to go with a B, though. Alright guys, that's the video for me, so make sure you guys like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos once the season starts. Make sure to comment what y'all thought of the draft as well. I know it was a pretty crazy day, so yeah, just comment your opinions on it. Anyways, I love y'all, see y'all, and peace.